Hello and welcome to this generic travel vlog. I'm in Miami right now, heading to the Bahamas. I'm actually a little apprehensive about visiting the Bahamas actually. I have never visited a Caribbean island and I'm really looking forward to that. I really want to meet some locals, get the culture, get the food. But I have been to, well, Cancun is the primary example, but of like mass tourist destinations, like frequented by American tourists. And I do not like those places generally. So I am hoping I get to have some cultural experience and really get to know the place as it is for locals. Else I'm just hoping to discover a new part of the world that I love and will be making many return trips to. Let's get cracking. I'm in Nassau, which is not really what I was expecting. I'm staying in some kind of residential neighborhood near the commercial district. It's not very touristy, which is good because it is so busy as is. Absolute insane traffic. Anyway, I started off the morning with a traditional Bahamian breakfast called a fire engine, which is corned beef and grits. Sorry, I got it in the takeaway package accidentally, so it doesn't look particularly good. But it was quite tasty. If you haven't seen my last video, which was in the US tasting southern food, I was actually quite surprised to see this sort of continuation with the grits. I was aiming to get to the straw market just after breakfast. That's not happened at all, but I did get to go check out Paradise Island, which, you know, as a resort place, looked actually pretty nice. That is the Atlantis Resort, Paradise Island behind me. I had no real desire to stay there this time. I have stayed at the one in Dubai a few times actually. I quite like it, but in the Bahamas I was like less inclined to just sit around laying on a beach, mainly because I actually get quite bored doing that, and also because I wanted to explore some more of the Caribbean culture. But it's still a nice little beach they've got out here. Very busy though. And the reason I wanted to get to the straw market particularly early was to avoid a deluge of cruise ship passengers, because I hear it can get pretty chaotic. Walking across the bridge back from Paradise Island, there's at least 6, possibly 7 cruise ships moored now. So I'm going to guess it's going to actually be very chaotic there. That cruise ship terminal area is very different from the rest of Nassau, and I think most of the tourists seem to concentrate there. It changes from a pretty standard commercial district to more of an upmarket one with like Rolex dealerships and a lot of rum cake, which I have not seen elsewhere. There's also things like Senior Frogs, party bars, stuff that doesn't really interest me. The straw market itself, though, was actually pretty empty. Not too many people in there at all. And it was, you know, a moderately interesting souvenir market, but nothing there really caught my eye. I generally find Nassau pretty pleasant, but I would be lying if I said there was a lot to do here. It's not the easiest city to walk, and I walked 25 kilometers today in thongs, or flip-flops, and there's a lot of potholes, missing footpaths, no stormwater drains in a lot of places, so the streets kind of flood when it rains. But apart from that, yeah, I'm really liking it, but just not too much to do. So tomorrow I'm going to go to Exuma Island. The first stop in the Exumas is the Bitter Guana Key, home of the Bahamian rock iguana. Now, before I get into the rest of the day, I do want to get into ethics of animal tourism a teeny bit. Basically, when mass tourism and animals interact, especially in an environment where the tourism industry is not that regulated, it's usually something I like to avoid giving money to. This is all going to sound a little bit negative, so I do want to preface the next section by saying I did have a very good day. I personally enjoy seeing animals in their natural habitat, exhibiting natural behaviors, and I'm much less interested when they've been trained or fed for tourist benefit because, ethical reasons aside, I just don't view it as much different than simply going to a zoo. Sometimes it makes sense from a conservation or awareness standpoint, but that's rarer. For instance, the iguanas in Exuma are fed fruit and are pretty aggressive in obtaining it. They're all waiting around for boats to arrive and will have a go at anyone. It is a nice little island that does offer good views of iguanas, even if it is a bit artificial. The rock iguanas are vulnerable, so it is probably good to keep them economically important as a tourist draw. The next stop, though, was at Compass Key, where nurse sharks abound. The sharks are of course fed and are well trained to come at feeding time. Shark awareness and interaction amongst the general public is, I think, very important, so I'm generally okay with it. But here sharks are pulled out of the water to pose for tourist photos, and whilst I'm sure the animals are fine in the long term, it is a lot of unnecessary stress for the sharks, and I'm not sure it really adds anything to the tourist experience. The sharks are in shallow water and they're big, and snorkeling alongside them is great fun and still a very personal interaction. I was easily able to avoid participating in the shark holding though, and went and found some of the bigger sharks who were also not interested in the feeding time. It's a borderline activity for me. It's probably okay, but there's really no need to pick the sharks up in my opinion. Which leads me to the big famous thing that everybody knows about the Bahamas, the swimming pigs. Contrary to popular belief, they do not really run wild on the island. They pretty much spend their whole day at the beach waiting for boats to come in and live off tourist food. This means they're in the sun all day, which is not good for pigs as they need a mud bath for sun protection. Several of the pigs showed signs of sunburn, some quite severely so. They do have caretakers on the island and apparently decent conditions outside of the main beach, but these aren't visible from the beach and I'd have my doubts. I was told, after some asking, that they were killed if they get too aggressive or the population becomes too much. There was a wave of dead pigs a few years back, which seemed to be from dehydration or the pigs ingesting sand from eating stuff left on the beach by tourists. I do not know what the pig's water source is now, but there did seem to be a trough as the natural sources of water have dried up, so maybe some things have been put in place to address that. The biggest problem though is that pig swimming is very cool and makes a great photograph, and I 100% see the appeal in that. This island, Big Major Key, is the original island that swimming pigs were reported. But it's not very easy or very cheap to get to, and tourist demand to see pigs on beaches has exploded, leading pigs to be released on beaches all across the Bahamas and indeed through Thailand and the rest of the world. This is obviously not good for the pigs or local environments, and it's just to satisfy a desire for Instagram photos. This is the kind of commodity tourism that I hate, to be quite frank, especially when it involves animals. The reason I visited the original pigs and not some other pigs in Nassau or wherever is because I didn't want to encourage the practice elsewhere, and I believed the story that I read many years ago, as a kid I think, about pigs being stranded on a beach by happenstance and learning to live on the island. I now think that story is completely fanciful and the pigs were placed on the quay solely for the purposes of tourism. And the boats are full of people who genuinely love animals, and pigs in particular, but I would argue that this tourism is not in the pig's best interest. Though you're welcome to disagree. I don't think it's as bad as riding an elephant in Thailand or swimming with those whale sharks in the Philippines, but still not my jam. I would have been very happy, I am very happy, just going around the keys, checking them out, doing lots of swimming and snorkeling, and just generally enjoying a day in a boat with some beers and some great weather. There was really good snorkeling in a lot of places. There were nurse sharks all over, not just at Compass Key. And the crash site of Pablo Escobar's plane, which is off Norman's Key, where Fire Festival was advertised to be held, combined my three favorite things in the world: diving, airplanes, and $100 million of cocaine. Some snorkeling sites definitely fed the fish too, as it literally felt like an aquarium with fish swimming up to you, but still, nothing beats some warm water and good visibility. I have been very fortunate in life. I have had lots of opportunity to interact with wildlife, including sharks, fish, lizards, in completely natural settings many times. And not everybody has had those opportunities, so it is exciting for them being able to see these animals. That concludes my time in the Bahamas. I enjoyed it overall, I think. I didn't get to sample a lot of Caribbean culture or even try a conch salad, but I did like day-to-day life in Nassau, and I'm glad I didn't lock myself up in a resort. Plus, the Exuma Keys have such amazing natural beauty. It's just a pity that some of the experiences there were quite artificial. On a return trip, and I think I would return, I would probably be basing myself either on Exuma or on the Out Islands or somewhere else entirely. Now it's off to Cuba I go. Thanks for watching. Happy travels.